We're on the phone with Danny Shirley, lead vocalist for Confederate Railroad. Good morning, Danny. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to getting your way.
Yeah. Carthage, Illinois, here this Saturday night, the Backwoods Boat Festival. You guys are the Saturday night headliner, along with one of our favorite area bands, Matt Hoss Jackson and Staggered, that will open for you. So we're looking forward to having you up there. This is the first time they've done this event, too, so you guys are kind of christening it, and if I might use the word christening, in a boat regatta.
Yeah, no pun intended, but yeah, that worked pretty good, Brian. Way to go, bud.
Hey, I appreciate it. I got to say, I've been a big fan of you guys for a long time. You kind of got your real big start back in the early 90s, and that's when I started in radio. So you had the big run in the 90s. Tell us about how all of that went, maybe a big moment when you knew you'd made it.
Oh, gosh, there's been so many. I've been actually been out here on the road doing this for a living for 38 years.
Right.
Back before Railroad, of course, we were the David Allen Co. band.
Right.
And before that, spent some time as Johnny Paycheck band.
Nice.
So the list of memories goes on and on. The first time George Jones called me out to sing with him on stage, that was a big deal.
Wow.
George and I were friends for about 25 years. Even going back before the Confederate Railroad days.
Yeah.
And, I'd go to his house, watch football games with him. And,
nice.
But as soon as he motions for you to walk out on stage with him, you forget that's your old buddy George. It's like, oh, my gosh, I'm singing with George Jones.
Right.
So that comes to mind real quick.
Right.
So many of the acts that I looked up to growing up, coming up in the business, to be accepted by them, to get on stage and do shows with them and actually do part of their shows with them. There's just too many to come back on me. I guess the biggest memory of my of all these years there in my hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee, we have the Riverbend Festival, and any time you play your hometown, of course, you're always really a little nervous.
Right.
You want to do your very best because you know that people that's known your whole life's going to be there.
Right.
And this particular show, we set the record that night with 138,000 people.
Wow.
And that was it was years later that Leonard Skinner finally broke it. But that was a big deal to me, of course. Being my hometown and all.
Yeah. Wow. That is impressive. That's very good.
That was pretty emotional, pretty overwhelming.
Right. Now, you guys, I was looking at chart position with your biggest hits back in the early 90s, and what I found was Queen of Memphis was the biggest chart hit, but I would say maybe Trashy Women is the signature hit. Would you agree with that?
Oh, good Lord, yes. It's still amazing how much airplay Trashy Women gets.
Yeah.
And actually, on the new album, we've I work with a foundation that if somebody loses a child, be it health or accident, whatever, we go in and help this family try to get through this. And on the new album, we've recut Trashy Women with Colt Ford and Willie Nelson.
Nice.
And all the proceeds from that are going to go to help this Hunter Worley Foundation we work with.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yes, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's very good. Personally, Daddy Never Was the Cadillac Kind and Jesus and Mama, my two favorites. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Those two have touched so many people. We always hang around after the show and sign autographs, do pictures and stuff. And but even more important than that, we get to talk to the fans. And I've had so many people tell me how that really struck a chord with them.
Right.
And another one, when you leave that way, you can never go back.
Right, yeah.
That was, we've really been blessed on those. And I appreciate you liking those two.
Yeah, well, I like them all. Those are just a couple of favorites. Of course,
it's almost like we had two careers. You had those really serious ballads.
Right.
What we call family songs rather than love songs.
Right.
I never was big on singing love songs like everybody else did.
Right.
But those family records really touched people, and a lot of people remember those more than they do some of the bigger hits with Trashy Women, Queen of Memphis.
Right.
So it's almost like you had two different careers there.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I played She Took It Like a Man again the other day, and it had been a while since I heard that, and it was just I was back at my first radio station in Emporia, Kansas, in my head listening to that song. That's a great song.
Oh, very cool.
Right.
I've been real happy at how a lot of those other records have held up over the years.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you have a new CD, and it's a live CD, right?
Well, now the live one is already out. But,
Okay.
I got to writing a bunch of new material a couple of years ago, and I remember back in the '80s or early '90s, I went to Waylon Jennings, and I told him, I said, "Man, you're what's made me a country music fan. I was such a huge fan of his."
Right.
And then 20 years later, I've got people like Luke Bryan and Jason Aldean coming up to me and saying, "Boy, if you only knew how many times I've been sitting on Riverbank fishing with Confederate Railroad music."
Yeah.
So, stuff like that felt real good. But I got thinking, I should be writing some stuff for these guys.
Right.
So I got busy, me and a couple of buddies of mine, and started writing some new songs. Then some people there in Nashville heard it. They said, "Well, don't pitch this to anybody else. Go ahead, let's just do a new album."
Nice.
So that's how this one came about.
Nice.
And we've signed a record deal, and the new album should be out later this year.
Very good. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
just when you think it's over, So, and the past 3 or 4 albums have been that way. I thought, well, when I left Atlantic back in 2001, after 10 years, I thought, well, that was fun. It's been a great career
Right.
as far as recording. And that day, I get a call from the label wanting me to do an album. Then every couple of years, somebody else wants to do Confederate Railroad album. So it's really been great. And, we still do 100 shows a year on the road.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And you're doing some extensive touring this summer, too, right?
We've had a busy summer. Yeah, we were out with Chris Cagle, last week or weekend before last, in Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
So we did a Western run, Dakotas, Wyoming, Nebraska.
Right.
We've been to New England a couple of times, which is really fun for me. I think up there they just soon hear me talk. That's a two thing.
Right.
But we enjoyed that run, and going back to up to New Hampshire and Connecticut, New York again later this year.
Very good. All right. Well, if you'd like, tell us promote your website and your Facebook. I know you do both.
Well, somebody does. I'm not a Facebook person.
All right. Good enough. But we can find you at ConfederateRailroad.net.
Well, that's just a whole different generation for me, but the new label that I was on with says I've got to learn to do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to be working on Facebook. We do have the website, ConfederateRailroad.com. And I promise I'm going to try to get more involved in this stuff and learn to talk to people.
Well, it's good. It'll help. I know you have a Facebook. I found it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, you ought to look it up, man. It's pretty cool.
Actually, the Twitter thing, we just found out a couple of weeks ago that we had a Twitter account, and somebody was pretending to be me.
Oh, nice.
And fortunately, he didn't say anything to get me in any trouble. But Charlie Daniels said something about talking to me on Twitter. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute." I said, "No, Charlie." I said, "That's not me." But so we dug into it and hopefully got that stopped. But so if anybody has heard anything bad from me on Twitter, it really wasn't me.
You've made it. You made it in your musical career. You've made it as a superstar when somebody's pretending to be you on Twitter, Danny.
Either that or somebody with a really, really bad life.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you again. The show is Saturday night, Carthage Lake Hill Winery. You get to hang out at a winery, so that'll be fun.
There you go.
And we look forward to your show, and we hope you have a safe trip here, and just the best of luck with everything, including the new album, man.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing y'all.
All right. Danny Shirley with Confederate Railroad.